hope you had a good day because today we are going to have another day of fun and interactive learning. Now your only job is to follow what the teachers will instruct or discuss to you and extend your interest, motivation, and listening skills to whatever the teacher will discuss and will make in the class to have harmonious flow of learning and avoid any distractions. Did you get it? Let's start. So today you're going to learn the proper usage or observe the use of punctuations that includes commas, periods, exclamation point, question marks, and other punctuation marks that will help you to have a good reading skills or fluency in reading. And for the objectives for today's lesson are: number 1, identify the different types of punctuation marks and its application to a text. Next is to improve fluency through effective usage of punctuation marks and intonation. And the last one, exercise and practice smooth flow of reading connected texts. Are you ready for today's lesson? You can do it. Let's start.
Hi, this is Miss Eliza. And before we venture towards our discussion, let us first have an activity that will test your understanding and familiarity about our topic. So to start, I will present to you the different symbols of punctuation marks. So first, of course, we have the period. Second, we have the comma. Third, we have the question mark. And fourth, we have the exclamation point. And I will also give you sentences in which you will identify what should be the appropriate punctuation to be used in the sentence. So the first sentence is, alright, so what do you think is a proper punctuation in here, since the statement is expressing a feeling of excitement, shock, or surprise? What do you think? Yes, you're right. It's exclamation point, and it should be uttered like, oh my goodness! So it should not be uttered in a manner that you're sad or in a manner that you're lonely, like, oh my goodness, because you are excited or you're shocked. So it should be uttered in a way or an energetic way, right? So next we have the second sentence, which is, so what do you think is a proper punctuation mark in the sentence, since its tone is like asking you something? Uh-huh. Yes, you're right. It's question mark. So it should be delivered as, where are you going? Because you're asking. The third sentence is, so what do you think is the punctuation mark that should be used in the sentence, since it separates words and ideas? All right, good job. It's comma. So it should be delivered as, please put the cups, plates, and jars into the cabinet. Great job. The fourth and the last sentence is, oops, something is missing. What could it be? Yes, you're right. It's period. The statement is left hanging, so we need to use a period to end the sentence. It should be delivered as, I will go to the library. Good job! Now, you're ready to step up to the next level. Mr. Asher, it's your turn.
Thank you, Miss Pantojan. By the way, I am Mr. Asher A. Amongan Jr. At this juncture, there are following questions that I'll be asking you in connection with the past activity that Miss Pantojan showed to you earlier. Now, let us proceed to the first question. First, From the symbols you had seen, as showed by Miss Pantojan earlier, how did you connect it to the provided sentences? Do you find it easier to remember for its symbols or its figures and how it applies to a text? Great! Now, students, let us proceed to the second question. Did you find any difficulty on identifying its purpose into a text? How did you resolve it? What strategies did you make? Excellent! Now, let us proceed to the third question. Can you easily understand the purpose of each punctuations through the given sentences? If not, what makes it unclear? You have a brilliant idea in there. For the last question, what do you think are the differences of these punctuation marks when used in the verbal course? Do they have different tone when pronounced? Very good, students. It seems that you already have an idea of what and how this punctuation mark works based on the activity that Miss Pantojan shared to you earlier. Now, to further discuss with these symbols and how it works, let us hear from Miss Blance Jane Abigail L. Edianon.
Thank you, Mr. Amongan. Now, to proceed to our lesson proper, let us first discuss what punctuation mark is. So, punctuation marks are marks that support the clarity and understanding of a text. It uses space, traditional signs, and typographical devices. And these marks includes period, comma, question mark, exclamatory mark, and quotation marks, which we will discuss today. Now, period, or also known as full stop, is used when we end our sentence. So the use of this mark means that our thought is already complete. So there are three major principles when we use a full stop. So first, period indicates that the sentence is at its end. So this is placed directly behind the last letter of the last word of a sentence. For example, I saw a girl running in front our house. Period. So as you can see, the period there is placed directly behind the last letter of the last word of the sentence, which is the house. And the last letter is letter E. Directly behind letter E is the period, because this indicates that the sentence or our thought in the sentence is already completed and we should end this. So we placed period at the end of it. Second, it indicates that the word is in its abbreviated form. So what is abbreviation? Abbreviation is the shortened form of a word or a phrase. For example, attorney. When we put a person's title, we use its abbreviated form ATTY. And at the end of the letter Y, directly behind it is we put period on it. Lastly, the three period called ellipsis. shows that a word or a section of words is being omitted from a piece of writing. So this means that the author or the speaker left a sentence or a thought unfinished. Again, the three major principles usage of a period is: first, it indicates that the sentence is at its end. Second, it indicates that the word or a phrase is in its abbreviated form. And lastly, it shows that a word or section of words is being omitted from a piece of a written text. Let us now discuss comma. So comma is used to separate words, thoughts, and phrases in a sentence. So we have here the major uses of a comma. So first, comma is used to separate to separate items in a series or a list. For example, I bought 2 kilos of mangoes, comma, space, 2 kilos of tomatoes, comma, space, and a milk, period. So in this example, because we have 3 items, so instead of putting them all together, we put comma in between these items to separate them from each other. Now, second, we use comma to separate clauses or phrases. For example, if it doesn't rain tomorrow, comma, we will go for a picnic. So the first phrase or the first clause is if it doesn't rain tomorrow. So to separate these clauses from the other clause, which is we will go for a picnic, we put comma in between these clauses. Next, comma is used to separate question tags from the rest of the sentence. For example, you get my point, comma, don't you? For us to understand the question, we put comma from these tags, okay, from the rest of the sentences. Next, we use comma to separate conjunctive adverbs such as however, moreover, in addition, therefore, further, like that in a sentence. For example, it was raining heavily, period. However, comma, he was determined to cross the river. So as you can see, the conjunctive adverb there is however. And so, before we proceed to the next sentence, we put first comma after the conjunctive adverb, however. Now, let's proceed to the fifth one. So, commas is used to separate spoken part of the text from the unspoken part. So, this is commonly used when we quote a phrase or a text or a sentence that a speaker had said. For example, this is really interesting. So this part is the spoken words of a speaker. So we put comma after these spoken words. After that, we put the unspoken words in a sentence. So this is really interesting, comma, she exclaimed, period. Lastly, we use comma after the words yes or no, or even oh and words like that. For example, yes, comma, I agree with you, period. Okay, so that's all. Thank you for listening. To continue our lesson, let us hear it from Miss Yarte.
Hi, I am Miss Jenny and now I will discuss to you the continuation of different kinds of punctuation marks and their examples. In the previous video, you already know the two kinds of punctuation marks, which are the period and the comma. And now, let's learn another kinds of punctuation marks, which are the question mark and exclamation point. So what is question mark? Do you have any idea? Yes, the question mark is a punctuation mark that is used at the end of the sentence when you were asking a question. So if you ask someone, then you will use the punctuation of question mark. Example, did you go to school today? Of course, you will not say, did you go to school today? But instead, you will say, did you go to school today? Another example, where do you live? What is your name? So that are the example of question mark. Another punctuation mark is called exclamatory mark. The exclamatory mark is used to make a statement that conveys a strong emotions, excitement, anger, or even joy. An exclamatory mark is used after a strong imperative sentence. For example, keep quiet. Of course, you will not say keep quiet, but instead you will say keep quiet with a strong emotion. Another, what a victory! It's a boy! I'm so mad at her! So that are the examples of exclamatory mark. Remember that question mark, period, and exclamatory mark are considered the end punctuation as they end the sentences.
Hi there, this is Miss Denny and I will now discuss to you the last part of the different types of punctuation marks, which is the inverted commas or the quotation marks. Inverted commas tell the reader what lies between them is direct speech. So when we reproduce the words of a speaker as said originally, the speech is in the inverted commas, and they are also used to enclose words of special significance for the writer. So aside from their use in speech and quotations from books, quotations marks are often used by writers to put distance between them and the words. So it's the same as when we use air quotes to say we disapprove or disagree with something. Okay, going back, another example here is that let me discuss this with your father first. Or Rajesh said, it is easy to understand the punctuation marks. So let me discuss this with your father first. I am directly saying this to you that I would like to speak to your father first before we proceed. Okay? In comparison with Rajesh, which is Rajesh, who are the one who said originally it is easy to understand the punctuation mark. So he considered punctuation mark as an easy. So on the other hand, we have here other usage of the quotation mark. Like for example, this blog was written by a professional writer. So that's quite an insult to me, right? Unfortunately, these quotation marks are overused in English and you will see them in lots of places they shouldn't be. And would you buy a sandwich that was made fresh? Or perhaps would you like to have a deep and meaningful conversation with a real person or friend? Right? So probably you would answer no. Correct. Now that you understand the different types of punctuation marks and its application to a text, Now, let us reflect how much we have learned from this topic. Let me ask you this. Why is it important to know the usage and differences of the different types of punctuation marks? Very good. Punctuation marks are not really complicated compared with English words, right? Each punctuation has a clear and specific purpose and usage that you can't mistake or one from the other. So unlike words that can be subjective and have tons of alternatives and modifications. How does knowing the different types of punctuation marks help in any written or verbal communication? Very good. Punctuation is essential and is used to convey and clarify the meaning of written language. It is such simple marks as the full stop or the comma, and the more complex ones or semicolons and hyphens. Getting punctuation wrong can change the entire meaning of a sentence. So if you want to make sure your written English is understood, just keep on watching.
Hi student, I am Miss Theola. Now let's proceed to the application. For your application, you are given tasks to perform a storytelling. I'll give you a big book with a story in it with the title, The Lion and the Three Cows. In your reading, you have to use what you have learned to our discussion by applying proper reading of words accompanied with punctuation marks, also with proper expression. Are you ready? Let's begin. Great job! You are now capable of using expression with the use of punctuation marks. To go deeper with your understanding with our topic, let's proceed to the assessment. I'll give you a worksheet with 3 parts on it to test what you have learned from our discussion for today. In part 1, mark my end, you have to put a correct period, exclamation point, or question mark after each sentences. In part 2, fill me in, there is a given passage and you have to write the correct end marks on the blank lines to complete the paragraph. And the last part of the activity worksheet, write 5 declarative, 5 exclamatory, and 5 interrogative sentences. Are you ready? Let's begin. Great job! You have really applied your learnings from this activity. Now, for your assignment, it will be instructed by Mr. Deo.
Hello! For the assignment entitled Speak Me, you are tasked to create your own conversation dialogue with the inclusion of different types of punctuation marks, such as period, comma, question mark, exclamatory mark, and quotation marks. After finishing your dialogue, you are free to practice it because this task will be present in front. You will be graded in these criteria. Appropriate usage of punctuation marks 20 points, fluency 20 points, content and organization of idea 10 points with the total of 50 points. So good luck guys to your assignment and thank you.
And that's all for today's lesson. I hope you have absorbed all of the different skills and knowledge we have taught you. And remember, the importance of identifying and applying punctuations or intonation marks when reading a text will help you direct when to stop and when are you going to pause while reading, and it will also help you to read in a clear and natural manner. Also, don't forget that you have to practice it and observe it always because this will help you in your conversation skills and daily conversation. So, keep on practicing, okay? Thank you so much for listening to us, and this has been Quennie Marie, and see you on our next lesson. Bye!